Hello and welcome to Managing Your Marketo Engage Database Hygiene webinar. I'm your host, James Fletcher, the CEO and Marketo Solutions Architect here at JTF Marketing. Today we'll be covering a few areas on overall data hygiene and management, looking at poor quality data and how that impacts your business. We'll also look at how dirty data bloats your license fee for Marketo, something very important. We'll also look at some examples of Marketo Engage data hygiene rules that we can use in order to clean up our data set and importantly manage it better. We'll also look at using data hygiene reporting to monitor your database health and keep an eye on where are we regarding that license limit, and importantly, how do we make some assumptions or decisions on how can we clean up that data. And then finally, I'll give you a very quick overview of deduplicating data on scale in Marketo. So we're JTF Marketing, we're Marketo certified professionals and a partner of Adobe. We provide a range of technical and strategic expertise to our clients, global and startups even, across a range of different industries, manufacturing, technology, insurance, financial services, you name it. We've worked with different companies in those sectors. We work across a range of use cases as well. So everything, as I say, from campaign strategy and how do we use Marketo in the right way, through to training, and of course the software as well that we have within our business, which is now available to you. So pretty much anything in that ecosystem of Marketo we get involved with, we've got an answer for, we've probably done it before. So if you've got any challenges, do let us know it and we'll see how we can help you. So let's crack on. The impact of poor data quality within Marketo. There's a few reasons why this is critical, right? And not to mention the first one, which is if we pass the lead over to sales, it might come bouncing straight back to us because it's not up to standard for how sales want it. There's the famous story of sales want a silver spoon in their mouth, right, with the leads ready to buy. Reality is when we've got poor data quality, we're not personalizing the way we want to as marketers. Let's take the example, we've got two records, a duplicate record in the database. Some fields are missing on one record and some are populated on the other. Our personalization will be skewed. Of course, we'll have split lead intelligence, we'll have inaccurate lead scoring. And importantly, this is ultimately not going to be a good quality lead to send to sales, or we might be firing it over to sales twice because we've got two different leads. The important part here is to understand how the cookies interact in Marketo. So most duplicate leads are either created through data entry, normally on the Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics side, or a custom integration, or by someone filling out a form with a new email address. So take the example of james@jtfmarketing.co, or it might be james.fletcher@jtfmarketing.co. These in theory are duplicate records and need to be managed in some way. They are obviously the edge cases. The way that we can automate is obviously looking at the quick wins, right? So what are the exact matches? Of course, the most important part, again, and I'll keep referring to this, is the price that you pay for your Marketo license. How much data do you really need? How big does the license fee really need to be? And importantly, how do we control that? How do we make sure that we're marketing to only active data and we're engaging with those in the right way? So here are 5 tips for managing the license fee. And we all know that marketing budgets are always under scrutiny. We're always trying to look at how do we improve the way in which we spend our money? How do we make sure that we spend less? How do we get more bang for our buck? So let's talk about some really quick wins. We can remove inactive and unengaged persons who won't convert. So how do we identify those? We look at whether they've been engaging with our email content, if they filled out a form, or even if they've visited a web page. If they haven't, let's make a realistic assumption of whether they will or won't. Let's make an active effort to engage with those records to see whether we can get some involvement and some interaction, or even prompt a sales conversation. It might be that they're not included in some of our campaigns, maybe due to poor data hygiene. We can also define custom synchronization rules. So let's exclude the records that we're not going to use in Marketo from the Marketo database and push them back into CRM if we can, and only bring in, let's call it valid email addresses. Let's bring in only records with email addresses and get rid of those empty email address fields. Or, how do we analyze what works and what doesn't? How do we build qualification rules up front that is analyzing the data as we collect it to understand whether we're actually going to need it or not? Does this fit our ideal customer profile or not? Or if we get no chance of selling to this person at all, how do we understand that? How do we influence the data set that we've got? And then finally, have a review of your Marketo maturity. Understand, how are you using Marketo? How can you improve it? And importantly, what are your opportunities? Build that roadmap for engagement. And again, that might be going away from batch and blast campaigns where you feel that you're capturing all of your audience into campaigns that will activate, engage, and convert as well. So how do we get visibility of data hygiene in Marketo? Most of you will be familiar with building a smart list in Marketo, perfectly acceptable example of how to get visibility. But ultimately, it's cold, boring data, right? How do you present that in a visual format? At JTF Marketing, we built a data analyzing tool called Merge, and basically that tool encompasses a data hygiene report, which will allow us to look at, where are we in our license fee limit? How many records have bounced? How many are unsubscribing? What can we start to do about those? Which actions can we take in order to improve where we are today? It's relatively straightforward to set up. Simply connect Marketo to our Launchpoint service. It will passively analyze the data and bring back the counts in order then to present that back to you, and you can collect that data and present it back to the business or make some decisions. If you want to get in touch with us, we can set you up with a free data hygiene report today. So I'm going to jump straight into Marketo because these webinars are meant to be about educating you guys, helping you identify maybe some activities that you can run in Marketo and how can we improve the way you use the platform. We're going to look at 3 different examples. We're going to look at validating email addresses. We're also going to look at automated data hygiene rules in terms of how do we do that? How do we make sure that they're native, so we don't have to go and spend more money. We don't have to go outside and create a data cleanse project. And importantly, we'll touch on deduplication in an always-on fashion. So how do we make sure that we're processing those on a regular basis? And I'm skipping a slide, so I'm going to jump back and go into my Marketo instance. So there's a common misconception that data management can be done within the database section of Marketo. Unfortunately not. There's no data controls under database. It is purely the data that sits in Marketo. Of course, we've got some segmentation pieces in there as well, but ultimately all of the data management and the data hygiene is either done in your CRM and pushed through the connectors or through an API into the system, or we can build them out under marketing activities. Now, under marketing activities, we will see on the left-hand side, I've got my tree structured here in Marketo in a slightly simple or oversimplified manner. Again, super labeled. Let's keep it nice and clear in terms of what are these and what are they doing. So let's start with looking at data management programs that I have here. You'll see I've got a list of them. They're all numbered just to make them sit in order. And I've been thinking about these in terms of the process which the data comes into the business. So what's the first step that comes in? I want to validate the record. And if it doesn't have an email address, I'm going to get rid of it. So let's take a look at that example. So we've got empty email address here. In my smart list, again, you guys will be familiar with this. Person is created with a filter of empty email address. And then under my flow steps, I'm then starting to get a little bit smarter. So I'm enabling my custom synchronization flag. And I'm saying, I do not want this in Marketo because it's not a valid record for me to target. And so remove this record by disabling the Marketo sync checkbox. I'm then going to create a task to pass that responsibility back to my sales colleagues, back to my data owners within CRM. And you can also do this in Marketo, right? You can build a specific list. You want to keep it in Marketo, and your data admin then starts to engage with you in the platform. And I'm going to say, this is an empty email address. Take it back. I don't want it. And then I'm going to remind them that they've got to go back and do this as well. and give them some instructions. What can you do in order to clean up this record and then bring it back in to Marketo? I'm then going to push it into my CRM, which in this case is Salesforce in this instance. And I'm doing that in order to get those fields in that task pushed back to the CRM immediately and back to that owner. Whilst it's hot on the radar, right? I need this email address. I need it, or go and find it, etc. Then I'm going to wait 24 hours and I'm going to remove it from Marketo. So I'm going to give it a 24-hour period to fall back in and then get excluded from this campaign, or I'm just going to get rid of it. And then only when the person who's responsible for this data set comes in and re-enables the sync from the CRM side, which requires a little bit of setup, it will then drop back into Marketo and we'll collect that information once again. We've also got some other ones which might be quite useful. Again, hard bounces. We talk about hard bounces a lot. Oh, we've got bounce, it's only 85% delivered. What does that actually mean? It means that these email addresses don't exist anymore. So we're marketing to people who will never receive our content. So what can we do? Again, we can look at anybody who's bouncing that contains maybe a bounce code of 550, which if you're down with all your bounce reason codes, that is an invalid email address. It means the person does not exist, the inbox does not exist. And then we can either update statuses or we can remove it completely, depending on what our process might be. Again, these are going to be fully customized to your business. These are just some simple use cases that I'm trying to show you in order to get your creative juices flowing on data management in Marketo. Not the sexiest of topics, but ultimately it's really important that we get it right. Now I'm going to jump down to my integrations folder under my data hygiene and management, and then I'm going to start with Never Bounce. So Never Bounce is an email verification tool that we use here at JTF Marketing. It's one that we promote a lot. There's lots in the market, debounce, and there's a ton of others as well that go and validate records. One of the important parts here is what we've set up is a program that is deployed on our website, and you may have seen it when registering for this webinar, that verifies that your email address is correct. Or if we've already got you in a database, we're going to go and request that we validate your email address. Now, what is that going to give us? It's going to give us some reporting where we've got different types of email addresses, whether it's unverified, whether it's gray listed, whether it's valid or invalid, or whether it's disposable. Maybe it's a duplicate record, again, cropping up here. As we talk about dirty data. Now, what does this mean? It means that our deliverability rates are going to be higher based on us having good quality data. So I know we're short on time, so I'm going to jump into Error Merge very quickly. And you'll see here that my program in Marketo, which is named Cleanse, just because this is what it's doing, is only looking for duplicate records. So I've got duplicate fields. Field name is email address. You guys will know this again from a Marketo perspective. This will then generate me a list of people who are duplicate records. In this case, I don't have any because I've been using our tool, Error Merge, which is, and it's kicked me out, which is brilliant because I haven't logged in. There we go. Which is our tool, as I mentioned, that will give us this live report on the data quality. So you'll see here, this report is a visualization of my database. I've got 18 records that currently sit in the database, of which 8,000 means I'm over my license limit. Therefore, I have to worry because my customer success manager is going to call me and say I need to buy some more, or I can clean it up and I can start to manage the data in that way. Again, similarly here, we've got some more metrics that we can look at. How many records have bounced, how many are private versus business email domains. So therefore, whether you're B2B or B2C, you may choose to fine tune that. And importantly, as we scroll down, we've got some other metrics maybe you haven't thought about: deleted in CRM, blacklisted records, which are spam traps, basically. So we want to get rid of those. Or maybe even people that are email suspended. Why are they suspending? How do we investigate those? How can we clean them up? Or again, we could be looking at duplication. In Error Merge, our tool, which you can have access to, just get in touch with us and we can get you set up. All we need is a smart list in Marketo. Once you put it in, there's an automated matching tool here, which is either by email address or a custom unique identifier. So if you want to build a specific code to build up a stronger match key than just email address, then you can. You can also merge in CRM here. And then, of course, you can go through and verify and schedule. Now, this scheduler will allow you to set it to run every hour if you want, or even every minute, or if you want to run it once a day, which means that any new leads that come in, if they are clear duplicates, you're merging them together straight away and you're keeping your database clean. Now, I looked earlier and the last one that I had, it cropped up because we haven't had so many duplicates in a while. I think it was the 11th of August. There we go, right down at the bottom here, 11:35. So 2 duplicate records identified, merged into one. Great, no longer a problem with my data hygiene. Now, if you've got any questions as we go through this, please do use the Q&A. Again, these are quick fire sessions, so there's not a lot of time to often go through in detail. So any questions that you've got that you might want me to answer, please let me know. We're also launching today a new resource around data management, so our data management handbook for Marketo Engage. In here, you'll find some more tips on how do we manage the data set, how do we improve the overall quality, and you'll find the various links to tools like Arrow Merge as well. If you can't wait until after this webinar, you can also head over to jtfmarketing.co/resources, and you can pick up the resource from there. So I've just rattled a load of information at you guys. I'm really keen to get your questions, so feel free to just drop them into the chat or the Q&A. And I'll briefly explain, how can JTF Marketing help you? We are specialists in Marketo Engage as a platform. We support the platform and the ecosystem that sits around it. We make sure that all the integrations work. We can help you address any data hygiene issues, look at license fee optimization, and importantly, help you build out those data management campaigns for your business that are specific to your use cases. We can also use our report here from Arrow Merge in order to give us visibility of what are some of the challenges that we might have in the data set, and equally, how can we improve them. One of my favorite data hygiene rules to set up is unengaged records, because it is a big one. We've got a lot of historic data sitting in our database, and we've got to clean it up on a regular basis. We've got to almost be a little bit ruthless to then break down those records and make sure that we've got a clean, engaged database that is obviously going to convert. And thank you very much for joining us for this webinar.